for AA Party to respond to this question on out-of-school children. The question is, how would we address this? Not what do we want to do? Thank you.
Thank you so much. I understood the guide you gave to all of us concerning the expectations of human rights in terms of how to relate to each other. But I must put this on record. My brother Sowore said the most persecuted presidential candidate is the one you should vote for. And it is on record, I'm the most persecuted. Definitely not. I said longer and I have my marks. I thank you so much. This topic is this question is very vital. First of all, anything we say or do without special arrangements of creating the funds for it, wealth within Nigeria and outside Nigeria. You may have lofty ideas, but you may find it difficult to get that executed. We in Action Alliance, we have a 20-year first plans on our own education, and we believe that will answer the problems we're having. Census goes by local government, then senatorial zone by senatorial zone to make it easy, 109. First of all, there will be a central education trust fund that will answer for the unforeseen for the next 20 years. This will be taken from precious stone, that is mining, from gas, and the new avenues we shall and worked out to be creating out of oil deliberately. The issue of education and having friction in that sector, we believe from the package we have, will never rear itself again. Then we have an arrangement of skill acquisition centers, 109, one in every senatorial zone, deliberately to answer for the unemployed today who have nothing to fall back to. From the wealth we shall be creating, every special banks will be created. Once you are there, it does not matter your qualification, but we believe in today's world, it is skill, it is what your hands can do that matters. So we'll absorb the unemployed, having certificate from there, that will be the guarantee for you to go to these special banks that will be empowered from the resources we have already worked out, that will be in hundreds of billions of dollars from what we have already worked out. We believe once we have the opportunity, Nigeria will be in a new phase, facing the life and competing itself with the best in the world. So with these acquisitions, with the certificates you'll have from the acquisition center, will give you the loans you require, and you begin to pay 10 years after. It will be totally realistic to the ground and realistic in the field. It is not an arrangement aimed at just given and taken right away, but the special aim here is empowerment and a direction for unemployed. And then here, we also discovered most of the children on our own, we took this pain to have come up with a document that Nigerians will be interested in. Most of these children are children of retirees, farmers, fishermen. Mostly they are the ones because the parents cannot fund them. So we have an arrangement, a package for farmers, for fishermen and retirees to get them reabsorbed into some new measures of employment in the country. And the constitution we are talking about is indeed faulty in many respects. There are exclusions here. The traditional institutions are weak because they are not captured. They are totally excluded from our own examination or the exercise we conducted. And also there are exemptions from the roles of women. Section 28 is faulty in the constitution in itself. So we believe there are numerous bills that will come to the fore to get this constitution to the same to be very realistic, so that all segments of our society will have that sense of courage, so that everybody for every segment will be seen to contribute. If traditional rulers, for example, are now given this responsibility on the issue of monitoring census taken in their own kingdoms, then the state governments will find it easy to have direct census of what we have and the problems. Because in the exercise we took in our forms, we found it difficult to get it completed without the rules of traditional institutions. So to us, this is the way to do it. And the primary thing here is wealth creation, and we already have the avenue. Second is the constitution amendment itself, the unemployed, and looking at the social ills of the society. Action Alliance has the secret and I believe he will give us the way to do it. I thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. I'd like to call on the presidential candidate for the ADP party to respond. Thank you.
Well, like the saying goes, and we believe in it, that it's not what you have under your feet that matters, but what you have up here. And it's to that extent that ADP made the symbol of our party to be the book, because we believe in education. We believe when you don't educate people, as a matter of fact, if you want to attack a nation, attack its education system and also attack its agricultural system. That is what is happening to us in this country today. That's why our economy is diving. Our education system is being attacked. The agricultural sector is being attacked in a manner that you will never believe it will happen, to us in this country. So our party and my administration will give first priority to the issue of education. We will make sure that education becomes almost free, in the sense that we will make all productive sectors of the economy to fund education by ensuring that certain percentage, like we have today, we have education tax, but issue of corruption is the being of development of this country, and we are going to attack corruption in a manner that it will either be eliminated or reduced to their barest minimum. How do we do it? We will make sure that the regulatory agencies are made to be productive to the private sector. Because if you have your regulatory agencies, I'm talking about the rule of law, if your regulatory agencies are made to be private sector driven, they will definitely become productive. They're supposed to be productive centers. The usual ministries are supposed to work out and then police and monitor policies. But the actual delivery, the interface between the people and the government is the regulatory agencies. That's why we're going to make sure they're privatized so that no child will be left out as far as education is concerned. And there's also nexus between economic progress of the nation and its educational advancement, because you have to find money to invest. How do you get this money? Nigeria is blessed, we all know. Not only are we number 6 when you talk about countries exporting crude oil and gas. In fact, we are number 3 or 4 when you talk about the energy transition bridge, which is gas. Nigeria is a gas country. So we will have no excuse for us to have enough money to invest in education. Yes, Nigeria is big. We are more than 200 million, but there's no other country like Nigeria on the continent of Africa that is so blessed. So what is between us and that greatness is leadership. And when you provide leadership, not only are you not going to grow the education sector, the health sector, infrastructure division that we have, and other sectors of the economy, believe you, will experience boost. And that's why I believe that time has come for Nigerians to now wise up. We can't be doing the same thing the same way and expect different results. I'm talking about voting power. I mean, parties that we know have failed us woefully. There's nobody can tell us. We've been killed, we are becoming more and more impoverished, we are becoming a laughing stock. So what I'm saying, education is number 1 as far as we are concerned. And we also have ideas on how we can generate the funds, to invest in that sector and other sectors of the economy. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Just to restate the rules, we're going to start the second set of debate now. Like we said, the town hall is not a political debate. Candidates will not be addressing each other and will not make responses of rebuttals. And candidates are advised to stick to their individual points and thoughts. should endeavor to be civil and respectful to other candidates and being audience in terms of their utterances and demeanor. On that note, I'll now be inviting the candidate of All Progressive Grand Alliance, Peter Nana Chukwudi Umadi. You have 10 minutes.
Thank you. My name is Peter Umadi. I am the presidential candidate of All Progressive Grand Alliance. The Peter Umadi Manifesto proclaims that the philosophy of All Progressive Grand Alliance ABGA rests on social progress. The fulcrum of social progress is care. Care for men, women, children, youths, older persons, persons with disabilities. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights, UDHR, was adopted by the United Nations General Assembly on the 10th of December 1948, and Article 25 thereof created human rights, which included adequate food, water, sanitation, clothing, housing, and medical care, widowhood, unemployment, and old age. As I stand here, I remember the words of President Julius Nyerere in 1976, which I heard over the radio from Nnamdi Azikiwe Stadium, Enugu, saying that it is a tragedy that the African child will go to bed hungry. That could be described as human rights denied. In fact, it has spread from children to parents and aged members of the family. It is our collective duty to enforce that human rights as envisaged by the United Nations. On the 7th of December 2022, I dropped my passport to renew my US visa. To get my documentation, I went to a secretarial shop at Onitsha, where such services were rendered. While I was there, a young man entered and began to sell his information technology wares to the young woman who ran the shop. I listened in and discovered that the young man did not have a shop or an address. All he could do was exhibited on a handheld tablet. Both of them understood what they were talking about, and the exchange of skill and patronage was imminent. You could tell that from the vulnerability of the young man, he was going to sell his knowledge for less than what it was worth. This is a glimpse of the informal economy in Nigeria, where we have a comparative advantage over other countries in Africa, with over 55% of our labor force so engaged and yielding about 65% of the gross domestic product. Majority among illicit activities, which include hired labor, individuals working on their own accounts, cooperative and social and solidarity economic units. Youths have combined unemployment and underemployment rate of more than 55%, which come with non-existent, small and undefined workplace, unsafe and unhealthy working conditions, low levels of skills and productivity, low or irregular income, long working hours, and lack of access to information, markets, finance, and technology. See the ILO.org website. efforts should be made for them to acquire skills and move into secure and less precarious forms of employment. Here again, the pivotal issue of electricity will be taken care of for the benefit of the larger society and implementation of all facets of the economy. Article 25 of UDHR echoes the freedom from fear and want, thus enlarging the concept of human security. Intrinsic in every constitution of countries are rights to life and property. Property leads to eradication of poverty, hunger, and other inequalities. Hence, right to property gives the owners the right to exclude others from the property. At law, reasonable force could be used to defend property. In proper circumstances, the force required to protect property could be escalated. The Peter Omoade Manifesto maintained that open grazing should be abolished. That should maintain the rights, provide normalcy for farming and other peaceable use of land in order to eliminate hunger and poverty and enhance prosperity. My manifesto think that the Child Rights Act should be implemented across Nigeria. I agree that the child is the block on which every nation is built. Where there is the child, there is the woman, primarily. We recognize that the vulnerability go in that order. The incidence of underage persons hawking and living on the streets found all over Nigeria, both in the north and in the south, should stop. No children will be allowed to roam the streets. Any parents whose child is found in the streets will be held accountable. All children within 18 years of age should be in school. We should work towards the attainment of Sustainable Development Goals, SDGs. The rallying cry is that no one will be left behind. In order to achieve true federalism, there is need to decentralize security. Multi-level policing is good in the situation we find ourselves now. Fundamental reforms will be considered and anchored on the triple banner on which I'm running for president, which are rule of law, separation of powers, and due process. The ties of government need to be productively interrelated. We should entrench separation of powers to achieve proper checks and balances. Energy and policy issues ought to be decentralized. I consider it a privilege to participate in the International Rights Day today in Nigeria, which began since 1950. I thank the National Human Rights Commission and the United Nations Nigeria for inviting me to the event. A new dawn for our country, Nigeria, is around the corner with an ABGA presidency. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much. We will now be inviting the presidential candidate of the new Nigerian People's Party, Raju Kwankwaso, who is being represented. Acting Minister.
Sincerely, I must thank the National Human Rights Commission for inviting my principal in the person of His Excellency, Engineer Dr. Rabi Musa Kwankwaso, PhD. You consider it very apt to include issues of security and education in the topic we are discussing today. You cannot talk of any meaningful development without first considering education and security. Nigeria, with more than 200 million people, presently have more than 20 million children out of school. And you know, our principal, His Excellency, is Mr. Education. Based on his antecedents in Kano, where he sent a lot of thousands of people on scholarship abroad, and within Nigerian universities. So education is a priority for us in NNP. We are going to expand existing schools, employ more teachers, retrain them, make a lot of resources available to the educational sector. And we are going to consider issues of security, because when you open schools and there are a lot of security challenges, like what we are seeing today, in terms of kidnappings, human rights violations, a lot of thousands of people in IDP camps for several years, and we are talking of education, build schools, and it will be destroyed in less second. We are going to look at the issue of security seriously. And in line with the United Nations Agenda 2030 for Sustainable Development, we are going to increase the strength of the armed forces to 1 million and the police force to 1 million on their current strength. We are going to dominate all the ungoverned spaces, Sambisa Forest, Rilingwari, and other places with at least a battalion of each to hold the ground. I remain there. And our commander-in-chief will be able and willing to command in the front line. We are going to create a barrack each in those ungoverned spaces, turn them into agricultural areas for development and agro-allied sector to take place. All of us know how rich Sambisa area is in terms of agriculture, but these things have been occupied by Boko Haram, kidnappers, and all sorts of people that do not mean well for our country. So, education and security, we are going to take it as a priority. And we are going to make WAEC free. Because we know a lot of people in Nigeria are very poor, have been reduced below the poverty line. That's why they call Nigeria the poverty capital of the world. So we are going to waive off issue of WAEC, enrollment in school fees, everything will be free. From basic education to tertiary, we are going to make it free for all citizens of this country. That has been done in Kano and it succeeded. So we are going to take it at national level. Free education at all levels. And the JAM result will be used for 4 years. It's not going to expire until after 4 years. So that will save the parents the body of every year they are passing through payment of JAM for your children. So that is about issue of education. We have a lot of resources to achieve all this. Increasing the police force, increasing the armed forces, the resources are there. All you need to do to block all the leakages, build up your revenue yielding base, go into solid mineral, block issue of crude oil bunkering. And we all know that even in our civil service, people are carrying billions, hundreds of billions, one person. That can build a whole town. The amount of money we are hearing that people are taking away from the government coffers. So the policy of NNPP is to block all the leakages, increase our tax revenue base, and then ensure that every responsible citizen of this country should pay adequate tax. So that we will have a lot of revenue to solve our problems and challenges. And looking at the issue of the judiciary, which is part of what we are discussing today, we are going to separate the office of the Attorney General from the Ministry of Justice. It should be different offices. Those responsibilities should be separated. I will carry out a comprehensive judicial review. And they will abide by the rule of law, which is a fundamental principle as enshrined in the Constitution. We all know how court orders have to be disobeyed. NNPP government will ensure that government will obey all court orders. And on issue of round tripping that we all know, which is also has caused a lot of problems. People go to the Central Bank of Nigeria, collect money, different exchange rates, become billionaires overnight. NNPP government is going to stamp it down and have one exchange rate so that we can move forward. On gender equity for women, our party gave 50% rebate for every woman that wants to go for public political office. 50% rebate, including the youths. So we have already started practicing gender equity and gender participation. And everybody has equal opportunity. Everything in NNPP and NNPP government will be based on merit, not on whoever you know before you get elected. It will be based on their qualification and merit, irrespective of their gender. And we are going to respect all the constitutional avenues required to prevent fraud, corruption. These are areas that have been causing a lot of problems to Nigeria. Once we can do all this, we'll have a lot of resources, and we'll manage those resources very well. And we'll supervise and send out people, set up organizations that will be monitoring on how the government resources are being used. Not when you budget for money, the money disappears. You don't even get a feedback of how that money is utilized. Our government will set up a monitoring agency for all the projects that go down the line. And for sexual abuse and on environment, I think it's the responsibility of the United Nations Human Rights Commission to always continue to investigate. Because most of these things happen, and we encourage you to continue your investigation and investigating well before you go public on the report of their investigation, and ensure that the culprits are punished. Vulnerable groups like women, children, youth, and people with disability, you have the responsibility of creating health services for them and review existing policies on women and children that will be favorable. And NNPP will protect girl child. Funds will be provided to rehabilitate people that have drug-related challenges. Our spotlight will be to eliminate all forms of violence against women and their child. And our policy reforms on the police. Police are part of Nigeria's citizens. As much as we know that there are a lot of things happening in the police force that are not favorable to the community, we have to make the police force comfortable to avoid the temptation of doing what we are accusing them of doing. Increase their salaries and constantly review it in line with inflation. We'll carry out comprehensive police reform.
Your time is up now.
Thank
You very much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. We'll be calling the next presidential candidate, the presidential candidate of Social Democratic Party, Prince Adebayo Ebenezer Adewole. So we have 10 minutes. Your time starts now.
Excellencies, leaders of the human rights community, Ladies and gentlemen, when we are called upon to interrogate human rights, there are many ways to look at it. We do this for over 30 years now, because one of the first things you will learn, and that to be a lawyer, is to understand human rights. And that's the campaigners for against gender violence, domestic violence, wearing orange. I know that they have a partner in the SDP. In fact, all of our parties are orange. So we are constantly, continuously engaged in that kind of symbolism. But what's important in human rights is to know that human rights, like any other agenda in society, is a continuous engagement and requires leadership. And there are many ways to look at it. One is the idea of presence. That is what rights do you recognize. A human being who is alone in the Serengeti, or who is somewhere in the wilderness alone, are his right intrinsic to him. The Bushmen, the alien humans, before society developed, they have those rights, or our rights in relation to where we are in society. So, listen. So basically, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, the other rights, Bill of Rights in various constitutions in various countries, come by way of what you recognize. That's why you have declarations. The second part is the technical part. The technical part is human rights has some complexity because it has to do with jurisprudence, it has to do with law. And you train people who are experts in human rights research, that in law. When I was United Nations ECOWAS Commissioner in Liberia, after the war, we had to interrogate human rights use and its observance under a war situation. And what you do when you are reconstructing society. And I remember that when I was graduate at IFE, I were being taught human rights. In fact, I noticed that we were being trained in human rights and all the precepts of it. But even in that environment, in that classroom, there was not much respect for our human rights. The lecturer gives you all the time. Sure. So even though as we're learning the human rights thing, we just learning it for no reason. And that reason is not component of it. The human rights as a culture. The human rights as a culture is the most sustainable human rights. Do you remember when in our folklore and literature, when the Ikunefuna was killed, there was a cultural revulsion. That time there was no Nigerian constitution, all that. But people felt like, why was this innocent Ikunefuna killed for nothing? And the society was written that the gods and everybody worked against the killer. So in our culture, even before we became a modern democracy, there are certain consensus that you get in the culture. And a leader can lead his people to achieve more consensus on issues, even if some of the issues come from abroad. And if you look at community where I come from, I can say to you that in the great days of my great-great-grandfather, when a king would die, minimum of 200 people would bury with the king. But now you can't find. And it's not because of the Human Rights Commission, because the missionaries came to the community and started working with the community and started negotiating that this consensus, a new consensus, has to come by which you honor your king, not bury with them. So I believe that that's where leadership comes from. When we look at human rights, and I've been exposed to it from the 18 when I entered IFE, I started learning jurisprudence. We're exposed to human rights like we're exposed to other programs. So human rights enforcement is not a program. It should become the culture. And I've lived in many countries, and in countries in which human rights are respected, it is not a government thing. It is that generally, their society has developed to a level of civilization where you respect the rights of people generally. So you can have a human rights regime where the Supreme Court justice still refuses to pay salary of the driver. Let it work out. But if he's sitting there and wearing the robe, he will still be enforcing chapter 4 and chapter whatever. So I think what leadership should do, as Social Democratic Party, what we want to do, is to try to train ourselves and bring a new leadership that recognizes that human rights are essential for three reasons. One, they are essential for power relations, so that you recognize the fact that you are basically a human being, and the highest achievement you can achieve in society is to be a respected human being. And that political power will change from time to time. And there have been people talking about why their rights were violated. But when you look at it, we've had history of people who say their rights were violated. But when they were in authority, because of power relations, they even did worse violations than the one they faced. And there are people we have seen whose rights were violated when they were citizens. But when they got to power, they didn't remember that at the time their rights were violated. The power relation made them to come and violate other people's rights. And I suppose that we can now lay 5 parts for Nigeria. The first part is that we should commit ourselves that the minimum engagement in political management is democracy. Because if you don't have democracy as a minimum requirement, there is no other system that can sustainably respect your rights. If a person took power by force or took power by tricks, to sustain that power, they will need to violate rights. Second, that as a society, we should develop it as a culture, not as a government program, that always we should respect human rights. And I will give a short historical analysis. The Human Rights Commission was created in Nigeria based on the resolution of 43.34 of 1995, that we should have monitoring institutions in each country. That's how we have it. But if you look at when we were under colonial rule, where people's rights were respected, maybe political rights were constrained. But if you went to a British court in Lagos to enforce your rights, it would be given to you. Prior to that time, to go to many cultures, people have rights. So I believe that the political system we are building now must be one founded on a leadership that recognizes that as a culture, we must respect the rights of people. The third component is that beyond recognition, we must do facilitation. And that is why chapter 2 of the Constitution is there. To say that there's a level of dignity you must give to people. And to do that, to give them that dignity, you must create certain infrastructure in society. And the government is most equipped to do that investment. And that is why you will see the manifesto of the Social Democratic Party. Why we are even called Social Democratic Party is that we believe that social investment in nutrition, in basic housing and habitat, in education, in affordable healthcare, in basic infrastructure, will raise civilization to a point where there is less tension in society. Every society, however advanced they claim, when they are under tension, they will violate human rights. Every country, when they go to war, they will violate human rights. Every society that is stressed will violate human rights. There is no country in which I have lived, whether in the USA, whether in Europe, whether in Australia, anywhere, that human rights violation is not a continual dialogue. So it's not an African thing alone. It is for us to understand that we need to organize a society to recognize that human rights is a basic infrastructure for reaching other rights. And leadership will be required. On our part, what we are going to do is to enhance institutions like the Human Rights Commission and like the court system and like the government itself and overall to see that institutional support for human rights. And lastly, to educate the people so that we can respect human rights even in our private agreement. Thank you very much.
Thank you for keeping to your time. We will now open the floor for questions to the second round of 3 candidates. So, yes, take number 1 there, number 2 there, number 3 there, number 4 and number 5. Please just ask one question so that we can have enough time for the candidates to. The candidates, I hope you have something to write so that you can take your questions. Thank you.
Okay. I had already been introduced. My name is Sonny Daniel. I'm a member of the Governing Council of the National Human Rights Commission. Nigeria produces oil and gas in large quantity and is noted worldwide. But that comparative advantage comes with a litany of human rights abuses. Gas, for instance, is flagrantly flagged in the country, abusing the rights of men, women, and children. Unfortunately, Nigeria does not have an action plan on business and human rights. In the entire continent of Africa, out of 50 countries, only 2, Kenya and another country, has a national action plan on human rights on business. I just want to ask the candidates, how do you speak this absence of law that can protect rights, human rights and business? Because the companies that come here to do business, because there's no law, they violate laws at will. How will you address these violations? Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's number 2. How is number 3? That's a number 2. Yes, the man in yellow.
My name is Ibrahim Hassan from National Human Rights Commission. My question goes to the presidential candidate of NNPP. Based on what you spoke, you said you want to make JAM results to be used for many years. But based on the statistic I have, about 1.6 million Nigerians wrote JAM in 2022. Well, Nigerian public universities has the capacity to admit less than 50% of the students. And some universities has different cut-off marks. Some have 180, 140, among others. So what are the strategies will you apply when students pass JAM this year and next year another set of students write JAM and pass? What are the plans for the increasing population of the students in the country? And second one, based on the movement of Concorsia, there is foreign scholarship. And we know economically it has impact on the public universities. Are we going to sing foreign scholarship when Concorsia won the election, or the public university will be patronized? Thank you.
Thank you. Almost all the presidential candidates acknowledge the need to sufficiently fund the National Human Rights Commission because it's one of the government agencies that is independent of government and has the mandate to deal with human rights issues of over 200 million Nigerians across the 36 states of the Federation. Presently, the law establishing the National Human Rights Commission has a provision for the Human Rights Fund, which is expected to be populated by both government and non-governmental personalities and agencies in Nigeria. Can you please address us on whether, on your strategies to actualize or operationalize this provision under the law, and whether it is possible to create a link or a handshake between security votes and funding of human rights in Nigeria? Thank you.
Thank you. Number 4.
Okay, good evening, everyone. My name is Nesty, and I'm a reporter from Prime Reporters News. And my question is being directed to the presidential candidates of the NNPP. I am still going to focus on the educational system. Well, I heard you say that free education will be given to um, all levels in the country, starting from the nursery, secondary to the tertiary education. And now, how possible is that? Because looking at our budget, the 2023 national budget, 65% of the revenue will be used to service debt. So how are you going to make this possible? And again, year after year, university produce a lot of graduates, I mean millions of graduates, but they roam about the street without jobs. So what is your plan on that part? Thank you.
It's number 5. That's number 5 at the back. At the back.
Good everyone. My name is Ihenseken Samuel Jr., country legal representative, One Law Foundation and Caring. I heard one of the presidential aspirants make his deliver his just short comments. Yes, sorry, one of the candidates, yes. And I want to direct the question more specifically to the SDP candidates. What is their plan for issues that has to do with enforced disappearance by persons, by states actors and non-state actors, in contrast and in reliance to the International Convention for all persons on enforced disappearance? What are his plans in that direction? Thank you.
Thank you. I think we should take a response to this first 5 questions. I would suggest that the presidential candidates answer the questions relating to them, and then also the general questions. So I'll be calling on the presidential candidate of All Progressive Grand Alliance to be the first to respond. And I'm reminded that you have 2 minutes to respond. Thank you. Yes.
Thank you very much. The first question about business plan on business for oil and gas, I will get it from a part of the manifesto, which deals on environmental impact assessment. And in a nutshell, for want of time, I will say that we will demand and extract immediate and commensurate reparations and restitution for any complicity in degrading the environment. We will pursue methods that guarantee cleanup and restoration of the environment. That's the answer to that question. Then about the second question on jam blasting for 4 years, and then it is talking about, what result he has and how that will be fashioned out. What we think in education, and I believe in that, is that education thrives on continuous assessment. And I think I'll leave it at that. And then if I go to number 3, where the need to fund the NHC and suggestion of security votes, I'm not comfortable with security votes. I think that every funding that comes out of the coffers of government ought to be explained and accounted for. And that's where I leave that. And then if you say free education, how possible? What I think is that up to 18 years, we should find funds to keep our children in school, especially for tuition. And then when you talk about how you are going to absorb many graduates that come, we have proposed what we call the German method, having a two-tier method, providing skills acquisition to the middle. People get skills and branch off. Those who want to continue to grammar school and get white-collar jobs will continue to the end. That way, those who have branched off will now employ themselves and have a plan to employ other people. Then number 5.
Thank you very much.
Number 5, issues of interference of state actor.
The time is up. Thank you very much. I'll be inviting the presidential candidate of New Nigerian People's Party.
Thank you for all the questions. And talk about the issue of oil and gas and protection of human rights abuses. There will be legislation and even review the existing laws on gas flaring. And as much as possible, NNPP government will ensure that these laws are obeyed. These companies that are flaring those gases are just interested in the revenue and the money they are making. But if we have a functional government, you'll be able to regulate what they are doing. We know what they are doing. And because people are benefiting, they don't care. That's why people are flaring gas, making billions of dollars from it, and other people are suffering. So there will be a law, and people that will monitor and check what is going on in the oil sector. And they talk about absence of law. Well, I will address that. NLPD and JAM being free and less than 50% being admitted. Yes, JAM will remain free. And even when we are presently admitting less than 50%, we are going to expand the existing structures in the university and they employ more staff. I said that, and we train them. We are not building new universities. We expand the existing one. And then put in more students in various faculties. And when you do that, it will absorb a lot of population of students who want to enter our tertiary institutions. And again, our National Population Commission will also be giving us data on population increase, and we marry it with the Ministry of Education to know how to put up facilities to take care of these issues. There's no rocket science. It's a matter of having people who know what they want to do and go about doing it and be dedicated on that.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Last 2 minutes. Thank you very much, sir. We'll have more time for this, but this is a recorded program, so we have to give everybody a full chance. Thank you very much, sir. We appreciate it. We'll be inviting the presidential candidate of Social Democratic Party to please come and respond to questions. We have 2 minutes, sir.
Yeah, because the time is short, I will not be funding the Human Rights Commission. There's no time for that. Let me deal with others. Now, for oil and gas, stop talking about the oil companies. It is your government that is doing it. Because it's either a JV contract where they are doing together or production sharing. So the government of Nigeria, the leaders want to make money and burn your lungs. That's what they want to do. So in our time, that will end. Clearly. On the multi-year UTMA, the question doesn't arise in our time because it's a violation of human rights to ask students to write example a space that doesn't exist. It's your job to make sure that the space exists by making investment that comply with Chapter 2 of the Constitution so that we invest in education, create enough space. You cannot ask people 30,000 to apply for a job that only has 300. That's human rights abuse. Same thing for education. Just imagine if you're asking 10 million senators to come and apply for 119. It doesn't work. So they won't accept it. The issue of free education and debt is the same problem. If you manage your revenue very well, 80% of your crude oil is not being stolen, your gas is not being stolen, solar are not being stolen, people in government are not stealing, Accountant General of the Federation is not taking 109 billion to himself, you will have enough money in the budget. You're not giving 16 trillion wafer to 12 businessmen
who are sponsoring politicians to have enough money in the budget to fund education. No problem with that. On the issue of forced disappearance, it's a problem in Nigeria between the government. When Sowore was missing, it was the government that took him. It was saying Boko Haram or anybody. So our government will not do that. Our government will not be. On the other hand, there are other people doing it, hoodlums, bandits, kidnappers, and US has the highest number, for example. And the oldest case of the missing person is one clerk in the US that has been missing since 1926. So countries generally have that problem. But in Nigeria, mainly the government uses it, gangsters use it, even political opponents use it sometimes when election is coming. They come and grab you and keep you somewhere. And those who are using human beings to exchange money, those who are sponsoring human trafficking, so those who are doing drugs. So it's the law enforcement, but the law enforcement must come from government having discipline. But on the issue of funding the Human Rights Commission, basically, funding is not only the problem. It's an attitude issue. But if you want to fund Human Rights Commission, we can fund without problem by making it the first line child revenue. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Now that we've done the first round of questions, I am thinking there's a common area of interest we would like everybody to address, which is the area of women. We are particularly interested to know how you respond to issues of women. My co-compare will elaborate more on that. Thank you.
We noticed in the responses across the candidates that there was no deliberate intentional response on issues relating to women, but there were issues relating to children that were responded to. So we're giving each candidate 2 minutes on how we're going to address the issues of participation of women within your government, if you get there. 2 would be the protective framework that would be in place to address issues of violations against women and young and girls. Thank you. So we'll start with Accord. Okay, sorry. I take cue from my sister. We'll start from bottom up. So we'll start with the candidate for SDP. Thank you. 2 minutes.
Well, you can see the intervention of women now that the Deputy Director General of the SDP social campaign has brought some ideas. What I see generally in dealing with women, there's not enough time. In these 2 minutes, there are 2 windows to look at the issue of women. One is equality. For you to have, as a country, for us to have women participation in every facet of our life, because women are averagely half of our population. So when you ignore women, you are trying to clap with only one hand. It's not going to sound well. First thing is equality. We must open every facet of our society to women. There should be no go area. There should be no area we call no go area for women. That's the first thing we need to do. And we do that in social aspect, in political aspect, in the economic aspect, in religious aspect, in cultural aspect. We must review all those regulations to see that there's no aspect where we say women are excluded from this. The second is equity. We must take a historical account of historical biases against women and areas in which women are disadvantaged. Because in some instances, to say everybody is equal, coming is okay for women. In some instances, to say everybody is equal, coming is not okay. Because, for example, in economic participation, if you say everybody is equal, you need to make special regime for women because historically, not because they didn't have talent, our culture has managed to keep them away from access to power. And access to power includes access to economic, social, and political power. So in those places, we do special intervention to ensure that we give access to women. But on the final note, politics is natural home of women, provided you remove 2 elements that work against women. Violence. Women are not good with violence. No woman can say, go and kill somebody, very rare, because I want to come to office. So you must remove violence. Secondly, you must remove the power of money. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We'll now be inviting the candidate of A Accord Party. We're going through the back. So we'll write NNP then. The candidate of NNP. NNPP. Alaji Rabi Farmers. Yes, New Nigeria People's Party. Thank you. 2 minutes, sir.
Thank you. So, ask questions about how many are we going to, new women we are going to absorb in politics. The Nigeria People's Party has a lot of sympathy for women. When we are selling our forms, we get 50% rebate for women who are willing to play active part to vie for political offices, including the youths. Because we know that financially they are not empowered like men. And when we get into, we are going to accommodate substantial part of women, but it has to be based on merit. That is what equity demands. Again, reviewing the existing policies on women, especially on health issues, we are going to do that, existing policies, so that we have policies that will be favorable for women, so as to improve their well-being. There will be free antenatal care for all the women. And we are going to protect also girl child from abuses. And all women will have free medical care, irrespective of whatever part of Nigeria they come from. That is the agenda of NNP. And it's achievable because we have the resources. Thank you.
Very much. Thank you very much. We'll now be inviting the candidate of All Progressives and Alliance, Peter Imani. Two minutes, sir.
Thank you. Women constitute about half of the population of Nigeria. And that means we have a lot of resources from there to tap to develop our country. And of course, we have the 35% set by the national gender policy. That's the minimum. We're going to start with that. And then we're going to ensure a total inclusivity in all governments. And then we'll reject the Women Affairs, Ministry of Women Affairs, so as to tap those precious resources and leadership skills possessed by women. I've taken that as a practical example myself. When I joined politics from the judiciary, the first person I called were women. And they were surprised. They kept asking me, is it only us? Are women coming? I mean, are men coming? Is it only women? They were surprised to see that it was only women I called. Like Riley said, they don't get into violence. They don't rig elections. They are committed. They are the first to come. They've done a lot for our political dispensation that they need to be rewarded. So I think that everything we can do to get, like I said yesterday, I'm ready. If the best man for the job is a woman, I'll pick the woman. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir, for keeping to time. May we now invite the presidential candidate of Action Democratic Party, Alhaji Sani Yusuf Yabagi. You have 2 minutes, sir.
Well, our mothers, I'm sure, as a country, we're not doing what we are expected of. When you know that only 5% of women are in the National Assembly, it's about to get worse. Because when you look at the array of people that were fielding, I think it's only one president candidate we have as a woman. And you look at other positions, women, for one reason or the other, are already sidelined. In my party, our party, Action Democratic Party, I have, in the structure of my party, I have two deputies. One deputy national chairman South, deputy national chairman North. All of them are women. And again, when we're selling forms, women are free. Free. We give them forms free. Not only do we do that, in the Kit States, apart from giving the women the ticket free, we also send about 6 vehicles to go and assist her in her campaign. So we take women very, very important in the scheme of things. Why? Because, like the saying goes, you educate a woman, they say you educate a whole nation, really. So, as far as we are concerned, women, like we all know, especially when you go to rural areas, women, they really occupy the chunk of the academic activities that you have in rural areas. And internationally, our women, believe you me, are doing us proud. You look at UN, we have Amina there, who is the Deputy Secretary General. You look at the World Trade Organization, where we put Sowore there, and those are the ones that we know. So we treasure women because we know they are people that when you listen to them, you hardly get it wrong.
Thank you, sir.
So,
thank you, sir. Okay, we're satisfied. Thank you very much. Can we invite the presidential candidate of African Action Congress, Omoyele Sowore? 2 minutes.
I just want us to understand that what has been driving our policy in Nigeria towards women is completely discrimination. And the best way to discriminate against women is to create a ministry referred to as Ministry of Women Affairs. And there are no ministries in Nigeria known as Ministry of Men Affairs. I will abolish that and create a ministry for gender and equality so that women can be central to the discussion around equality. Secondly, we should not be treating women from the point of percentages and statistics. And if we are going to do that, let women take the right percentage in our political life. If you have 51% of your voters in an election, then the women in the country should get together and make sure they present a woman candidate that can win the election for Nigeria and teach Nigerians a lesson about equality. And I'm saying this very seriously because sometimes when we are talking about women, we celebrate any little symbolic achievement of women as something that is big deal. It's like we bring them, oh, we have a woman who is doing very well. But we don't say that to men. But women are the people who are likely to wake up first and go to bed last. Even in political rallies, they are the ones who come, they are the ones who wear the political symbols, and they are likely to be the ones who clean up after the men have done their poop in the country. The percentages of women in the country is more than 50%. Give them that right, but I don't want women to be treated in percentage. But with regards to our party, we have to apologize first and foremost. We are also guilty of this. But most importantly, we are promised that when we come into office, you get the percentages of women in office as it is the percentages of women in the country and voters. And I want to say to Nigerian women, stop also complaining about percentages. I was so appalled when women were celebrating 35% of position in political office in the country. You are 51%. Go for 60%. And like I said, teach our men a lesson. Don't make them keep making you look as if we are weak. We are not the weaker sex. Men in this country are the weakest because they destroyed our country.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Thanks a lot. We'll now be inviting the presidential candidates of AA, Lagi Hamza Al Mustafa. Two minutes, sir. 2 minutes.
Thank you so much. So I go straight to the point. We in Action Alliance have special package for women, but I start this way. women in Nigeria look at politics from the point of view of motherhood spirit. They are always deceived when election comes. No sooner they vote a government into power, they are forgotten until another 4 years. So here we have the following. First, every 8 of education. So we have designed that we shall have in every zone an apolitical institution that will support, prepare women, and send them into the political arena so that there will be maximum gains and participation in the country. There is an arrangement we are having also that is for free medical care for pregnant women. We also adopt and accept in our manifesto the United Nations campaign that they call the 8 points for women at the international scene. Security code from one in every step down to ward level. So all violations women are experiencing, we have incorporated them into the digital arrangements on security codes and rescue onto them up to wards. Human violations are recorded in every community. But here is sensitizing and protecting the woman. And finally, I have 5 more points, but time I must do justice. Let women realize that AA is your house. Feel free, we are with you. Thank you.
Sir. Thank you very much. If you give a house, I'll become a woman so I can get a house. Would I invite the presidential candidate of AACOP party? Thank you, Professor Imumel. Thank you. 2 minutes.
Okay, for women, I'm from the sector that cannot survive except you have 60% inclusion of women. I'm from the educational background. And you know clearly that you cannot run a school except you have nothing less than 60% women. Because naturally, women nurtures. Naturally, women have more tendency to have longer longevity at work as compared to men. So naturally, I have worked with women and I also have come to realize the importance in building anything. So that will be translated in our governance. And also, as a little boy who lost his mother, my mother became a widow at 39. And she saw us through, so I knew what it means from the basic family structure to have women work, women supported, and women encouraged. We set up an NGO in 2019. You know, every time I want to talk about what I'm doing, not just what we will do, that empowered women in Nigeria, 6,000 women in Nigeria with grants personally, between 200,000 to 1 million. I did that personally, 2019, and that got my name in the World Book of Greatness in the UK. You can check it, you'll see it there. These are values we bring in on board. I'm not just a president candidate that will tell you what we will do, we will tell you what we have been doing. And I see governance as an opportunity to do more. If you have done 1 million, you can do 100 million when you come into politics. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We have now come to the end of the debates. I want to use the opportunity to thank all the presidential candidates who have honored this invitation. You have made history today. This is the very first time human rights is an issue for discussion in Nigerian election. And that's a sign of better time to come ahead. So I want to thank you for coming. We would like to pose with you for a group photograph. Please, the presidential candidate sheet. I'm reminded that there's one more person who should come and talk to us for about 2 minutes. Please, I crave your indulgence. I invite Dr. Adokamo, please, to come up.
Your Excellencies, my dear presidential candidates, ladies and gentlemen, and members of also the press. Indeed, as the ESP just said, this is a historic moment. A historic moment where you have an opportunity to share with the populace what you intend to do in relation to the promotion and protection of human rights. So the few words that I have for you is not only for those who are seated in this room, but it's for those who are aspiring to be president that are not even in this place. It's for those who are aspiring to be anything, taking political positions that are not even in this room. It's for those who will be taking that position even in years and years to come. It is easy to win the hearts and mind of the people. Just do the right thing. No one can live forever. Whatever step you take, ask, will I like this if I'm on the other side? For God's sake, God loves this nation. We are endowed with resources, human and material and natural resources. Please, can we work together to make Nigeria the pride of Africa? Can we work together to make Nigeria the pride of the whole world? Because we can. And it's simple, very simple. Basic things. Basic things about education, about health, about water, about food, about respecting the dignity of person. Why must we torture people? Why must we detain arbitrarily? Why must we do the wrong things? And I think that we can all do this together. There is no nation that doesn't have a problem. But the key thing is that we must hold our hands together and move forward. Thank you for coming. Nigerians will be watching. And I make sure that in all your little spaces, let this election be free and fair and speak the voice of the people. God bless you.
Thank you very much. We are getting to the end of the town hall engagement. On behalf of the National Human Rights Commission, I'd like to thank all the presidential candidates that have made out time to be here this evening. I'd also like to thank our partners, the UN systems in Nigeria, the Ford Foundation, Partners West Africa, Nigeria, AIT, and other media organizations here present. I'd also like to invite the presidential candidates to the podium for the group photograph. I'd like to thank the representative of the Attorney General of the Federation, the representative of the Minister of Women Affairs, and other MDAs represented here this evening. May I also invite my colleagues, other members of the Governing Council, to the podium for the group photographs.
No problem.
And finally, thank the members of staff, management and staff of the National Human Rights Commission for taking out time to be here. Thank you very much and God bless you all.
You should come down.
Sorry, the Permanent Secretary, Federal Ministry of Women Affairs, sir, please join us. Thank you. My apology. Representative of the Attorney General, the UN representative, Can we come to the or can we form two rows? One row below, one. Yes.
So can we have one row now and one row?
Late lunch will be served at the restaurant. And next steps for the NHRC post this town hall is that the National Human Rights Commission will be analyzing the manifestos of the political parties on how compliant you are to human rights standards. The findings will be shared with each political party and it will be monitored subsequently for compliance. Thank you very much.
Abeg, abeg, abeg. You know, say you. The devil, really. Thank you very much for recognizing your own teacher.
Siji, am I in the?
Now you are.
Very good.